Welcome to the PhiloSoccer podcast, where soccer is a mirror for life. Today's episode is about ambition. Not the Instagram version, not the highlight reel version, the real version. The version that demands sacrifice, discipline, identity, clarity, and emotional resilience. I coached Michael Conejero at William Carey University in 2018 during our NAIA national semi-final run in California, and Michael was a standout player, not just technically, but mentally. There was something different about him. He wasn't just playing the game, he was chasing something. And this episode is all about that chase. Because going pro is not just about ability, it's about who you become in the pursuit of it. Michael, welcome to the PhiloSoccer podcast.
Hi there, man. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so happy to see you and so proud of you, of what you've become in the past few years. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Appreciate it, brother. Yeah, so Michael, I want to dig right in, and like you just said there, it is all about who we become through the game. And in 2018, when I became the graduate assistant at William Carey, when we met, I learned something as a coach. I learned a lot, but I learned a big part of my philosophy, which is the way you are on the field is the way you are off it. And today I want to talk about you chasing something, because that's very much how you played. You were a player who were, you were a winger, you were direct, you were fast, you were aggressive, and you were ambitious as a player. And that trickled into what I saw reflect into the way you approach life, right? So I want to dig right in, Michael, and get an idea of, like, when did soccer stop being a game and when did it become a mission for you?
Well, that's actually a very good point of view. What I see, let's start from the beginning, obviously, but when I started playing football, not just at a professional level, but as a juvenile in Spain, I realized that I had something different, not just technically wise, like you said, but I always consider myself very strong mentally wise. And especially, I think it was a turning point when I went to the States. I realized that, okay, I was playing at a very good level, but still I was able to maintain that difference with all the players. So for me, going to college, going to the States was a great experience. It was a turning point, as I said, not just about academically, that really evolved me as a person, but also as a player. But then I came to realize that I was able to make something big, to make that separation from the rest of the players. So yeah, also as well, it could be an asset, but people saying that I was going to the States to retire, it was something that it pushed me over when I was probably not at my best. So yeah, it was definitely something that I always kept in mind, to come back to Spain, even go to other countries and step up into the professional level. So yeah, it was something that really kept me in that moment very, very ambitious. I'm very hardworking, very disciplined. I think that's what really built up my identity as a player, also as a person.
I love that. And we always talk about the opportunities that America brings for young players, right? Internationally, those who don't go pro in their hometown, in their home country, come into a new place, in a new environment. And a lot of players come here solely for the football, right? Solely for the scholarship, and don't necessarily make the most of their education. I reflect as somebody who came from, kind of a place in England that was deprived of opportunities. So when I came here, I really made the most of my education, right? And I think people do in different ways, but I recall you vividly being all about learning English, and not just the game and the discipline there, but what can I take? Can I suck the marrow out of this experience, right? In every single facet. And I know now you're doing a little bit of teaching and you're giving back in that way to help footballers as well, and we'll get into that. But I want to touch again, Michael, on, like, what did you believe about yourself before others did?
What you mean in terms of football, in terms of life?
I think they go hand in hand, right? So, like, what did you said you were that mentally strong part, right? You had that. So what did you believe about yourself?
Yeah, it also, I think it also starts from my family, okay? The values and everything that they gave me through my growing up, going to school, always have that in mind. It was definitely not about football. My parents, they wanted me to sacrifice myself to be someone in life. And to be someone in life, I mean to be able to decide what I wanted to do. Okay. And that's something that probably people are not able to decide at that point of their life. Okay. People get what they can make. In that point, my father especially pushed me over to become someone that I could choose, I could pick. And that's something that I will always be helpful and thankful to them, especially my father, that he really was next to me through all the journey until I obviously went to the States. But speaking about my beliefs, also my thoughts, as I said before, going to the States was not just about education for me. It was having a new opportunity. It was, to be honest, I wanted to be there just for a year or maybe two, just to excel my English, because I started to do my degree in Spain. It was so hard to complement both the football and also the degree. Teachers didn't make it or didn't help a lot in Spain. So I was really into, okay, I'm going to get there. I'm going to do 1-2 years. My English come back into the pro level that I was already playing. But then when I went there, I came to realize that it was a great opportunity also in the professional level in football, soccer in this case. When I came, I realized that it was something that I could exploit as a player and also as a person. And I think that's what I did. My entire 4 years of education, I keep a great memory of everything. I wanted to suck as much as I could in that time, because at the end of the day, I knew I wanted to come back. So yeah, it was definitely something that I always go back and flash back into speaking to my family, and I see that it was definitely probably the best thing I ever done in my life.
Nice, man. So it sounds like that spark of ambition really came when you came to America, right? And you came into William Carey. You came into a professional environment. It's got pretty much all the resources you could ask for, right? And
Probably, yeah.
yeah, it was a great school. It was a great experience, and I want to talk about again the way you are on the field is the way you are off it. And I vividly recall Tim Timokoski, who was on the team.
Such a great guy. Such a great guy.
He would always make an analogy for you, and just a funny example. He'd be like, "Look at Michael on his motorbike. Like when you take a step back and just see you on the field, and you were so fast and explosive and direct, and like I say, ambitious. That ambition really shone through." And obviously, I did a lot of individual training with you and group setting, and it was how can I be better? So now I always see that as something that you can't necessarily teach, right? That ambitious part. You said you had a supportive father, right? That's always super helpful, and somebody who allowed you to be in the driving seat for your own growth, right?
Definitely.
And football is all about decision making, right? Just as life is. And so to have somebody, not necessarily somebody making the decision for you, Michael, you're going to become a professional, but you to make that decision for yourself. It sounds like you've had really good guardrails and parameters around you to say, hey, I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to support you on whichever you achieve. And so I want to talk, Michael, about obviously the first year we came together, and then that ambition. In 2018, we came very close to winning the national championship.
It's such a pity, man. We didn't get it at the final moment, but you know how football it is.
It can be like that for sure. And it was in California. We won the conference championship that year. We got to the semi-final, and I think we had an unbelievable run. We had a great team. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So in 2018, during that semi-final run, what was happening internally for you?
Well, it was internally for me. It was probably something that I could reflect it on my professional level. In my head, I was thinking just about winning. Probably that mentality I see from a normal way, because that's the way I am. But when I saw players at that point, that they were because it was maybe luck. They were with good people around that helped them. For me, it was all about winning.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I was even mean at my teammates, because all I wanted to do was to excel, to grow, to become professional. That's good. Everything that was not the same way as it was not necessary. It was not something that I would focus on. I would be definitely next to me when things go wrong, when things get ugly. From that perspective, also I'm a huge fan of Michael Jordan. So growing up as a kid, even though it was in the States, I always look at the way he approached the game, and I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be ambitious, I wanted to win, and I wanted to become professional. Even my father, my parents, they support everything that I wanted to do. But it was also about me, about going to the States, going to be different. I always wanted to be different. And I think that was, in that case, make the difference or make the separation in my case.
100%. I think that's a really good point, Michael. Everybody wants to be unique. Everybody wants to have that, it's a human need, right?
Yeah.
Now here's what I really remember and love about that experience as well, being in California. For me as a young coach, it meant a lot when you came up to me, and because I remember as well, the environment, there was people who were serious about it, and there were people who weren't so serious. And as a young coach, it was tough. It was tough to relate and resonate and get buy-in from those who weren't so bought in and would rather just have a laugh and a good time and a good experience. Because for me, football's always been about winning as well, right? It's been tied to my identity, and I really saw that in you, right? And I remember an experience when we were in California where you came up to me, and every single day, like, there was no days off, and Barry gave me a lot of opportunity actually to step into the coaching role. And I remember just daily trying to set the standard, and there were 2 or 3 players who would, I think as the tournament went on, we got more buy-in, right? I think if we'd have had that buy-in from the start, who knows, right?
Who knows?
If things would have been different. But I do recall you coming up to me and saying, and I remember it because I was proud, saying, "Oh, Danny, can you come and do the team talk? Can you come in and get involved beforehand?" I just want to know personally, like, why did you do that?
Well, honestly, because I saw you as a leader also. I consider myself as a leader in soccer, also in life. I wanted to, as I said, decision making. I wanted to do what I want. I don't want to get what people left in that case. So I saw you the way I approached the game. Also, you get a big talk. So I got to take advantage of that. You knew how to transmit and make people believe, and that's something that it's so hard nowadays. People, especially when people are not well educated, let's call it that way, or football educated, when you speak to people and they show no respect, they show like, okay, this guy is always talking, that's really bothers me, because I'm giving everything I got, everything it's on my hand to approach, to win, to be disciplined. And don't get me wrong, there's always time for a laugh, there's always time to go party, there's always time for everything. But if you are now focused on getting something, you gotta give your 100%. If not, you always be like, but ifs are not something that you can really control anymore. So that's why all I wanted to do is, if we were partying, okay, we are partying. If we are focused on the national championship, let's go get it. Whenever we finish, then we'll think about something else. But now it's time to focus on that. And as I said, I saw you as someone similar to me in that context. Even though you were young, you were someone that came into the team just a few months ago. But I saw as a leader, as someone that could really help and provide a big push for the final part of the year.
Thank you, man, and I appreciate that, because I've always kept that in my heart as a proud moment, honestly. And I came in from Rio Grande, right? A program that's in the middle of nowhere, Michael, and we had a lot of talent. And for us, I feel the biggest difference between Rio Grande and Kiri was distractions, and also, I think a lot more players came from professional backgrounds in their own countries. I know you were one of the ones at Kiri who did. And so environment is massive when it comes down to building a winning team and a successful team, right? Because you can give as much energy as you want as a coaching staff, but you need buy-in and you need leaders like yourself as players on the field, who enough of them to make a championship winning team, right? So I think we came that close, and I think honestly, if I reflect on that and compare to my own experience, I think we got there in some sort. I think we overachieved considering the mindset of a lot of the players. I think we can be proud and take a step back and go, wow, we got there with, yourself and Joaquin were special. You were game changers, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think across the board we were solid, but I think it takes more than 2 individuals and a couple of others. It takes 11 guys to fully buy in. And I remember you were somebody who completely bought in, and again, you had that ambition. So when did you choose ambition, Michael, or did ambition choose you?
I would actually say that ambition grew up into me as I was playing and playing. Let me explain myself. When I started, I was just a guy that wanted just to play, to have fun, to enjoy, to play with friends. But then, I don't know, something inside of me came forward and said, okay, you can make the difference. And then also my game helped me to realize that I was able to do it. I was able to make it. Going to the States, going to another country, going to, even though it was an NAIA division, first NAIA division, I realized that, okay, this is something that I can be proud of, that I can get the most of it. Who knows? Football, it's tough. It's so difficult to make it to the pro, but, if I couldn't give my best shot, I would always be thinking about, okay, if I could have given more to the game, if I was more disciplined, if I were, I don't know. That's something that came along the way.
Mm-hmm.
It really became a must for me. Just waking up every day, having an organized day, going to school, get things done properly by my thoughts or by myself. That was the way to make it. So I would say that it was a process. I didn't start that way, but now I see back or I reflect myself on the past year, and I see myself like, okay, I'm being more and more leader than I was a carry even. And I also learned that through my career, through many players that helped me, and coaches and people that really influenced my personality over the years. So yeah, as I said, I think it was a process and something that I've been growing, I've been putting up through the years and through everything.
I like it, and I like how you said you wanted to develop that leadership, and the ambition was a process, right? Some people say it can't be taught, or but it came to you as way of a process. So a lot of players are driven by insecurity or driven by a human need, right? To be unique, to be special, to offer something, to offer something to the world. And you're a type of player I see as somebody who wants to give back. I know you're a teacher now. You're teaching English. You want players to do the same. Where does that desire to help people come from?
Well, that's actually a very good question. I've never thought about it. But as I said, it might be education. It might be my family. It might be people that influence me on the way. I don't know. It's something that um, it really makes me feel like, okay, I'm doing something good, not just for me, but for people. I wouldn't be able to say a word or how it is really my nature, but it's the way I am. I feel better. I think that is something that it's not common in nowadays society, that people likes to help. People usually go their way, and they find their money, they find their thing. Money, obviously we all need money and it's part of the process, but it's also about humanity. It's also about, I don't know, making things right. I would say that my parents influenced that on me, but I think that also it's part of my nature, and that's how I see it. I don't know.
I like it, man. And this podcast and my view and my perspective is football is all about perspective. It's all about opinion. It's all about learning from people, from the journey, from everybody's story. And I love your approach to things, Michael. And I'm a firm believer in, there's a message they give you on a plane right before it takes off, saying, in case of emergency, you put your own oxygen mask on before you help others, right? You need to survive first in order to give back, right? And I feel as though throughout your process, it resonated with me that it's kind of like you've done what's necessary to put yourself ahead. And so once you're at a certain stage now, you're at a place where you feel like you can give back, and you feel like you can motivate others, and you feel like you can set a standard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to give you an example, a clear example that it happens to me a few months ago. I was teaching a kid that his dream was going to States. He's a golfer. His mentality was, okay, he was learning through my classes, but he was learning from my personality as well. So as we move on, the kid learned, he got his grades up, he got his exam, and then obviously I'm more about football. I'm not fully dedicated into going or taking people to States, but if I could do it, I will make it. So this kid was like, oh, Michael, look, I have people around me that can help in terms of golf, but could you give me a hand? I was like, Absolutely, there is no doubt. So I was actually in contact with Barry. I was like, look, I got no idea about golf, but there's this kid, his dream is going to the States. Could you please give me a hand? I don't know, how can we make it? So Barry gave me a huge hand. He talked to the guy, to the golf coach. They got in touch, and the kid in this context, it's now in Kerry. He is now playing for the golf team, and I didn't charge any money. My goal was to give him the opportunity. Obviously, his family wants to build me a statue in Malaga, but that wasn't my intention. My intention was, as you said, I was able to step ahead. Okay, why not take someone from the hand and give it the same opportunity? Maybe they can make it better than me. I don't know, but at least they have the opportunity to make it. So that's something that it happened a few months ago, and now a lot of kids are trying to make me get them a scholarship for them. I will help them as long as I can, but it's not something that obviously it's 100% going my way all the time, but it is what it is.
I love that, mate. And I signed a petition for them to build a statue of Michael Conejero Corpas at William Carey as well. I said this kid is special.
No need, no need.
No, but it's a beautiful thing when football can provide opportunities for others. And again, look, it's a completely different sport, but connections,
Exactly.
and networking, and that's what it's all about. It's all about connections, the people you meet along the way, the relationships you make. Like, I'm so happy the game brought us together in this capacity, so I can learn more about you. So yeah, you weren't an average player, Michael. So I want to know, what lies do average players, because we can talk about the environment we were in, all right, not to mention names, but that mentality we're talking about, because it's in every football team, right? There's no perfect team, but the average players, the mindset we're talking about, what lies do you think those average players tell themselves?
Well, I don't know. That's something quite tough to think about. If I could say that in terms of leadership, in terms of, being someone that makes the difference. I have a clear example when I was playing for a team in Malaga. It's probably a good reflection to your question. I went to a team, I signed for a team, a very good contract, but it was basically a new team. Was now one from anterior years. So we came there on preseason, and I realized that it was no leaders. It was no one who take the team on their backs, and when things go ugly, put themselves the uniform and work hard. So at that point, I realized, if I don't make it, who is gonna make it? I'm well educated. People respect me. I'm a good player. Who else is better than me to step up and, I don't know, help those players, team, call it whatever you want. So I think that lies into the mentality of those, makes really the difference between those average players and people who want to make it happen. I've always wanted to, as I said, I wanted to be far, or to go far, as much as I want. Also, Matias, I don't know if you remember Mati, that he was a guy that he was so smart, and at some point he was like, why do you put so much discipline into the game if you're not gonna go pro? And I was like, why you say, what do you mean? I didn't really understood the question. Like, what do you mean? Why I'm not gonna get pro? I'm 20 years old, I'm young, I don't know, I'm healthy, I'm physically strong. Why I'm not gonna make it pro? And he's like, bro, there's so many people out there playing at a very good level. And I was like, just like me, so why not? And that's a question that I always keep in mind. When I see him, we speak about that. We always make a joke and laugh about it. But it's also something that probably it's a reflection of what it is. Why not me? We know it's hard. Okay, I know, I understand that part. But why this guy that is next to me is gonna make it and not me? If I die trying, okay, that's fine, but at least I tried. So that was my motivation. That was my way. There is always, you need that hater part. Okay, if everything goes so smooth, probably you don't give credit, you don't value how hard it is. But you have always had also those haters that they thought that I was not gonna make it. And that's the gas. That's what fuel my ambition as well. So no, that's
That's what
definitely a part.
that's what fueled the motorbike. that gas.
That's definitely what fueled the motorbike.
Michael, I love that, man. That's different class, honestly. And
Mm-hmm.
I love it because
Appreciate.
my wife always says this quote, I think it's by Tony Robbins: the quality of your life is a direct reflection of the questions you ask yourself. And that question there, why not, is amazing. Like I was kind of like, wow, that's kind of what it takes. Like, why not in this life? There's so many factors that determine your day to day. You go outside the door now, your life takes a whole new path to, to staying on the call, right?
It is.
And so why not? I think that's a lovely takeaway for any listener today, any young aspiring footballer. Why not? And to ask it unwaveringly, even in the face of doubt. Because listen, Mintias, by the way, what a player, right?
What a player.
And we could say that probably about a lot of other players on the team. But were they asking that question of themselves, right? I know for one, myself as a player, it wasn't necessarily why not, right? I also had a lot of doubts. And I think that puts me in a good position now to help educate others, because
Definitely.
perhaps my journey could have been different from that aspect. So love that from you, Michael.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm thinking here. So is the discipline that you had, is that emotional or is it structural?
I would say both. Because since I started to be a professional, to behave as a professional, I started to structure my way, my prevention work, my trainings, everything. But I think it's also emotional. Since the day you start accomplishing things, you see that, okay, the more I put it into it, the more I receive. There's always not 50-50, or there is not always that equivalent part. Sometimes you give a lot and you receive just a little part. But I realized that the more I gave to the game, at some point it was not like that, but the more I gave into the game, the more I received. So that was my mentality. And that's especially what you said. It is always about organization, because I'm a quite organized and structured guy, but also it's all about the mentality. And that's, I think, what really makes it different. And it's something that everyone say, but is the truth. I've been with so many class players and wonderful personalities, but what really makes it different, also because it's the way I approach the game, it's the mentality. Sometimes you see players first division, second division, and you see, how is this player making it to the professional level? He's not super good technically wise, physically wise, he's not that different. They need to have something. There is just a small range of people that really make it without those qualities. Okay, I could count it with the hands. If you are there, it's because you have something. Must be on your side. Injuries must be off your side. It's the way you see it. That's why football is so hard, because there's so many things on the way that if you put it in a ball, you need to have everything ready, everything on your way. But it's the same way to, for example, going to the States. It's not just about having a good level or playing football well. You need to be academic minded. You have to be persistent. You have to be disciplined. It's not just about one thing. It involves so many things on the way. So I would say that I didn't make it to first division. So far, I didn't make it to first division, but it's also about trying. Okay, if you make it to second division, that's what football was waiting for you. So if you gave it all, you can be pleased, you can be thankful. But even injuries, it can be a role in your career. In my case, when I was at my prime, I always pick up some injury that didn't really push me over to maybe make it to a higher division. But it is what it is. It's luck or not. You never know. If I couldn't get injuries, I would definitely not be the person I am today. So it built my character, it built up my personality. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. And I think what it is when it comes to luck is, I think luck is the residue of desire. I've always stood by this. Have you ever been in a game and the ball just seems to bounce in favour of your team, and it's the wind that goes the same? We won a national championship. It was a 35-yard free kick. The wind was gusting this way, and it's just kind of like we the energy and the spirit of that team, we wanted it so much. I felt like that was a divine intervention almost, right? It was luck, right? It was like the cameraman didn't even expect Jeremy to shoot a free kick. He missed the ball going in the net, right? And it's kind of like, I look at that and go, luck is a residue of desire, and there are so many factors that go into
So many.
to
There's so many.
getting to the top. But I like how, Michael, you said it's about kind of the core and that mentality, and it's not always the best player that gets there, it's the mindset, right? I just got done having a conversation with a lad I played centre back with, Mitch Osmond at Rio Grande. He plays professionally now. He's overcome injury after injury, and he created a whole family out here before he even got a professional contract. Like, he was somebody who, I think, a great example of where everything goes wrong for you, but it's that perseverance and it's that that desire to get to the top. So appreciate you mentioning that, man.
Yeah.
Is it a lonely journey having those expectations and those standards, and like, what do you think misunderstand about your drive?
Well, that's actually something that I like for you to mention, to point out that being alone, it's also part of the process. Okay, I've been through many injuries, muscle, whatever. Sometimes I've felt alone, because when things go right, everybody's your friend. Everybody kind of hype you up into, okay, you're so good, you got the world on your feet, whatever you want to call it. But when things don't go that way, it's needed to be alone as well. I enjoy being alone when things don't go my way. For example, yesterday we lost, and I was so sad, but I was home and I was really trying to enjoy that sadness, because that's what it's gonna make me give value to the winnings part. Or when I win, when I score, when everything's go my side, my way, then I will really appreciate that. But you need to have ups and downs. It's not always about being right here. It's about finding that mental stability, to have that discipline in the good and also in the bad moments. As I said, for me, it's also about really enjoy the moment, the good and the bad. If I lose, okay, I need to be sad, I am sad. There's no problem. It's not all about happiness. And that's a mirror of life, like you call yourself out.
That's awesome, Michael. And the reason being is because I don't think many people, especially in today's world, are really present. I'm a sucker for it myself, right?
I agree.
To be still. Like, I get frustrated when my wife's meditating every morning, because I'm almost like, I feel like I'm buzzing and she's chill, like my cat's on her purring, and I'm going, wow. I wish I could be that still and embrace the moment. And football is a great teacher for that. Like, when you're playing, I feel as though you're in a flow state, right? It's like there's nothing else going on in the world. It's you, the ball, your environment, and it's it's kind of like you're on automatic, but in this very present, conscious way, right? And I love as well. I want to go back to kind of what you said something earlier where about your characteristics and the traits that you must have to kind of get there. You were never a big talker, right, on the field. You always had a presence in terms of, let's give him the ball, he's going to affect the game, right? Even when things were down or things were, you were never like, maybe let's go, guy, but you could see that you were feeling it, right? And, some people would, let's go, I would say I sometimes, there's the mind-body connection, let's say. And I could see when things weren't going your way, it was down, but it's that connection between the two that needs to say, hey, let's pick up here and let's go again. And I say that because you're somebody who modeled for me kind of like silent leadership. Why? Because you could see the emotion and the energy that reflected the game, let's say, in you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with you. Not many people realize that. I talk when I need to talk. If not, I think silence is better than my talk. I don't know if you get my point. But when you are, especially on a game, I don't need to give out or yell to my teammate to make him realize that I'm into the game. But there is a point in which I need to talk, I talk. And I build up over the years. Now, sometimes people tell me to stay quiet because I don't stop talking.
Too much English now.
Too much English now. But I rather be that player, like you said. I'm someone that I'm not going to be yelling at anyone. I'm going to be into my game, into my mind, just visualizing the next play, or just keeping myself into that mental battle that we all have. Okay, I'm not having a good game, but I need to stay positive. not everybody can be at their prime always. There is that line in which you sometimes need to cross, some other times you don't have to. It's just the game is going to give it to you. So when I was into the game, I always wanted to, if I see that someone was down, obviously I would speak to him. I would try to make him go full into the game. It was more about, okay, being connected to everything was happening. If there is a fight over there, go there, but be present. Be present into what really matters. That is the game. It's scoring, it's corner kick, whatever it comes. I like the way you ask that, because not many people really appreciate that. When you see that someone is quiet, he's not a leader. He might be a leader on the ball. He doesn't need to talk. You need to have good people around you. The atmosphere, the environment is a crucial part. If you are surrounded good people, good professionals, everything comes so much easier. And I had good examples and bad examples as well on previous year. When I was promoted into a high division with the Malaga team, that we at the pre-season level we screw him. We weren't very good, but we built up a family, a real family, and we got promoted 3 months before the season ended. So it's just a mirror of what a real strong group can get. And the other way around, I have teams in which the players were absolutely fantastic, but they were not able to become together. And we end up the season struggling, having problems at the locker. Everything was so ugly, and we ended the way we could. But for me, it's all about the team. And the way I reflected on the game is the same. If I promise you, if I score, I'm happy. But if I can assist, I will be more than happy, because it's my happiness, but also my teammate. It is what it is. That's the way I approach the game and also approach my life.
I like it, Michael, and I like it because the philosophy that you have, I kind of feel different in a lot of ways, and I'll tell you why. Because they say there's no I in team, right? But I think what makes a winning team is having, again, 11 individuals out there with their own personal battles, with their own conflicts, but the key ingredients being what you just said, like that connection, right?
Definitely.
Everybody's got
Absolutely.
a point to prove, and everybody's got that. And you said, I noticed it in you, right? And you appreciate me noticing in you that you were that silent leader, that type. The reason I noticed that, Michael, is because I'm somebody who, in my environment, I'm going to take and learn from others what I don't necessarily have myself. I was not the type of player you were. I was loud. I was...
all the time. They're all needed. They're all needed on the game.
That's it. But I want to reflect on this, because as you were talking, I was thinking, I was the opposite. Like, I let my emotions, let's say, get the better of me sometimes. I was a very aggressive player. For me, it was a one-on-one battle I was a defender. So it was like, nobody's getting past me. That's my personal duty and my responsibility. And honestly, I took a lot of my anger from my life out in the game. Like, football was never really enjoyable for me. I didn't go out there and love it. Honestly, it was a way to channel all of my emotions and to fully be present in it. And I think a key ingredient, the more and more I speak with people and the more I experience football, a key experience is kind of having an open mind and learning from those around you. Right? Everybody approaches life differently. Everybody has a different story. The qualities that you have, as a coach, as a young coach, college level, I've always been tied to winning and results. I've never really faced failure, right? As a player, 4 years national champion. I played at Man United growing up. And for me, winning was always tied to my identity. Right. I think it comes from a place of insecurity, right? I didn't come from much. I didn't come from a stable family, stable structure. And so for me, winning was, this is who I am. But the hard part about that is, when I don't win, who am I? Right? And that's where I think that silence that you're talking about, that reflection, and I love what you said there, sitting in that stillness of a loss and saying, this is it's beautiful to actually embrace this, because this is the experience. Right? Because when we think about that end goal, like when you had a teammate who questioned you, why are you doing this if you're not going to become a professional? If you if the end goal is the only thing on your mind, the result, the winning, you lose sight of that process and who you become, right? And I feel like I'm learning so much more now as a coach, and about my journey, and about how sometimes I stole from my own experience, because I didn't sit in those moments of loss. And it was more, I would beat myself up and tell myself certain things, right? And I would put so much more pressure on myself to get to that next level. So I appreciate that.
That's probably why it's so much frustration all over. Winning is difficult. Not many really get that winning. You can win a game out of 20 teams that are on the league. There is just one winner. There is just one championship. So if it's hard, you need to realize that it's a lot more easier to lose than to really get the win. And that's why so many players, so many teams get frustrated, even clubs. They get frustrated because they don't get promoted. In a year, in 2 years, they split up everything. They break up everything that is what really football bring us together. And that's why projects go wrong sometimes, because they got the structure, they got the players, but they don't have that patience. They get frustrated at like this. And that's why players, people, whatever you want to call it, when they stop playing, they really didn't see what they were doing on the process, because they were just focusing on promotion or not relegation. But what about the games that you won? What about the plays that you really enjoyed, the goals you scored? It's so many things on, like you said, like we said before, that it's on that englobes and evolves everything.
Definitely. I think it is about process, and I've had to learn that through my journey, and that's what big part of what PhiloSoccer is. It's very much about identity, you know, and helping kids find their identity and their path and their purpose. Not everybody comes to find their path and purpose in life, right? And I think football, it opens so many doors, you know, regardless of becoming a professional. My wife said it best, actually. I stole this from her. She's a therapist, but she says, you know, have you ever thought about it? You're not necessarily developing professional players, right? Even though you're very capable, and that's my goal. You're helping young people become professionals of themselves, because that's what you didn't have. So what qualifies me more as a coach now to say, hey, you know, I wish I had the conduct of Michael Conejero. I wish I had the discipline and the support and I'm taking the very best from those around me to say, hey, this is another element that.
And that tells a lot about you. That tells a lot about you.
And so, yeah, no, it's funny because I'm getting clear as we talk here, Michael. This is a great conversation, man, and
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Was there ever a moment for you, Michael, where you questioned if it was worth it? Because you're somebody, and we're going to get into it, who achieved what you set out to achieve. You became a professional, and we're going to talk about what that felt like as well. But was there ever a moment when you questioned, was it worth it? And then if you could bounce off that and tell us what it was like signing your first professional contract.
Absolutely. There are so many doubts, especially when I was through injuries. There was a moment in my life in which I picked up so many muscle injuries and I didn't know why. I was healthy. I was mentally focused. I was eating like never before. And I picked up so many injuries, like 2 or 3, that it took me out at least 4-5 months. Not straight away, but 2 months prior, then 2 months out. I didn't know how to get away from that injury perspective, injury moment that I was going through. So of course there was a lot of question, a lot of doubts, and my family as well, they didn't see me enjoying anymore. So they told me, my girlfriend still, she wants me to retire now. I'll focus on other things. My father especially, and that was super hard for me, because I never see him that way. He was like, why do you keep trying? If things are not on your way, there's no problem. You are well educated. You can find your way, some other place. And I was like, yeah, I know, but there's no way I can get away now in this moment. I've been through so many. I've sacrificed my entire life for football. There's no way I'm going to finish it off this way. But still, there was doubts in my head. And I thought, okay, maybe they are right. Maybe it's the moment to step away. But I'm quite strong-minded, and I like to not just take my time to do things, but also I like to give myself opportunities to fail again. It might sound like a quote, but it is just like that. I've felt so many times, like injuries, goals, penalties, whatever. But I've always been strong to get back again. I'm keep fighting, and that's a real thing about me.
It's a real important message, yeah.
I will definitely be making more and more mistakes, failing one more time, but I will definitely get up one more. That's my identity, and that's the way I approach things, not just football.
And that's what helps players get to the top of their game, to the top level, and to achieve what you've achieved, Michael, getting a professional contract. Before we get there, I do want to talk a little bit about those lows, because we say it's about making mistakes and being okay with mistakes and growing from them. But what was your lowest moment mentally?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I would say definitely when I reached my first pro contract. That it was already a very good division, a very good team. But I picked up an injury at the beginning of the season, so I wasn't starting. I started to play before the Christmas window market, but out of nowhere, I had my family there. My girlfriend was already working as a teacher there. Out of nowhere, the club decided to break my contract. So the last day of the market closed up. So I had really many options, and something good really came up. Another professional contract where I was so happy to pick up, even though I left my girlfriend, I left my family, I left everything. I was still in Spain, but too far. I was up in the north. So I went there like 10 hours away from my home with the intention of getting things back, and I didn't play much. I started to play. I was playing very good. At some point, I still don't know the reason why. The coach started to bench me and take me out of the starting 11. And that was probably, I wouldn't say I was suffering from depression. I wouldn't say that. But I was really emotionally sad. I went to training and I trained good, but I wasn't enjoying. I wasn't really what really characterized myself, my personality. So I would say that was my lows. That was one of my lows.
What did that moment reveal about you, Michael?
Well, so many emotions, and probably everybody needs to go through that. I could be happy if someone, not for so long, just for some time, to give credit to the good moment. You need to go through that isolation that I was. For example, I was away from my hometown. I left everything, completely everything, and I went 10 hours away. I know no one. I got no many help from people from the club, but it really built up my personality. But it's true that emotionally wise, it was one of my toughest moments.
Appreciate you sharing that. I think everybody who you speak to who's successful, ultimately they failed the most, right?
Yeah.
What part
definitely.
of your character, Michael, was forged through those setbacks and through that pain?
Probably the discipline, the hard work, I don't know, the capacity to get up from failure or from losing. I could point out so many things, but I would say that the three most important are those ones. Sometimes when I don't behave the way I am, I don't go to the gym because I have something to do. I eat some fast food, I don't know, whatever that, it's not on my schedule or my structure. I sort of like feel a little bit guilty, let's say that. But the way I feel it, the way I get up from that, it's just like, okay, tomorrow I do this, tomorrow I go back to my routine, to my structure. So there is always times to enjoy, to relax, to take a day off. But I think what really defines me as a person, as a player, is the way I get up from those bad moments or from those weaknesses.
Yeah, no, I think it's habits, right? Your habits, you are what you repeatedly do. We are
Absolutely.
creatures of habit, and I think you've trained yourself mentally to be present and embrace the moment and allow for those for those mistakes, allow for those setbacks, because the comeback is always greater than the setback, in the words of Barry Farrell. I don't know whose real quote that was, but I remember him using that at Carey, and stuck with me. But what do you think young players, then, for young listeners, what do you think they misunderstand about going pro?
And that is all about happiness. That is all about winning. That's something that really it's a big problem for society. When I think this is a quote from I don't remember the coach, but one of the greatest coach that played for Athletic Bilbao in Spain, Bielsa, Marcelo Bielsa, that's his name. He said that when you reward something that is not to reward, that's something that becomes a habit. That's a problem. When you give a reward for something that is well defined, that it's well done, okay, that's how it should be. But when you gratify something that it shouldn't be, that's a problem. And youngsters see, okay, this guy, everything he does, I'm going to do it. But they don't see the things on the background. And that's really also about themselves. But they just think about, okay, if I do this, I'm going to become pro or I'm going to become successful. That's not the way it is. It's about being yourself. It's about making mistakes. It's about giving yourself opportunities. And that's something that I really admire about the coaches that I have. Okay? I've had coaches that didn't allow mistakes. And that really shocked me because how I'm going to learn, how I'm going to improve if I don't make mistakes. They were the big talkers. Okay, yeah, you can make mistakes. You're going to play. No. But then if you commit a mistake, you don't play. I don't know if you see my point, but
I do.
It's
I was that
always
coach.
about
Michael, off. We need a
yeah,
goal.
exactly. I understand that point, but it's not just about making things right. You need to be able to go wrong. That's as simple as that. And youngsters, I think they are misled by social media, professional, famous people, not just footballers, but everything they see on social media, they think is true, and it's definitely fake. Not everything is based on happiness. Not all the couples or all of the families are based on good moment. They always go through everything, but obviously you're not gonna post on social media something that when you're at home, when you're crying, when you're sad. That moment you don't post it. Okay, why? Because you feel ashamed. Because you think that people is not gonna respect you. Whatever. Everybody had their opinion that they keep. It is what it is. You have to live your own, and then life will put you wherever you have to. But my mentality is always to give 100%. If comes my way, that will be excellent. If it doesn't come my way, I will try all the things. Exactly. I've tried. I've done what I should done, but that's it.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
And don't be distracted by the outside noise, and don't feel. I feel as though it requires emotional maturity, and I think it requires self-awareness, which I think is becoming more and more rare in today's world. Like you said,
Definitely.
and that's why I prefaced this podcast by saying it's not the Instagram reel, because I saw a kid in yourself putting everything on the line and not being afraid of making those mistakes. So how important is that emotional maturity, and what's the difference between wanting it and living it?
Well, that's the key. That's one of the most important things we're probably going to discuss now. And I see reflected on young people that are on my team right now. They complain about absolutely everything. When I was giving you an example, when I was at Kerry, if Barry said, okay, we're going to run 10 kilometers, I ran 10 kilometers. I wasn't complaining about what my coach, my teacher was about to set for me. In this case, nowadays, it's completely different. You set up something for someone, being the coach, being the captain, being whatever. There is first the complaining, then the process of admitting what you have to do. And then it's, if you do it, you are doing it wrong because you're not doing it. You're not enjoying what you're doing. You are putting bad faces. You are making the environment go ugly. But that's a cultural thing. It happens to young people that starting on the game that really wants to. They don't accept. They don't admit anything, and that's a big problem. That's something that we should take care more. We should take into consideration. But it's hard because people don't listen.
All right, so Michael, we spoke a little bit about who we become through the journey, right? So your journey is still ongoing. You've got your professional contract. You got promoted with your team. I see you on all over Instagram having a wonderful time, enjoying the game. And before we hopped on the podcast, you said, I'm going to play this game until as much as I can, right? Until I get of old age and I can't kick it anymore. But who are you still becoming through this journey, Michael?
Well, As we were speaking, I think football has given me so much through my entire life, through education, through my career, and still it's gonna make me learn, evolve as a professional player, but also as a person. So I think what I told you before about getting retired, it's true. I want to play as much as I can, but I don't want football to leave me. I don't know if you understand me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave football when I feel that okay, there is the final stop here. I'm not enjoying anymore, or my physical condition doesn't let me give up my 100%. That's when I really take up the decision to stop playing, to retire or move out to another thing. But yeah, I still think that I have pretty good years coming up, and I will definitely try to enjoy, play the best, and enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. I like it.
Enjoy
Going
the
back
ride.
to the motorbike again, man. Eh? It's
It always come back to it.
Tim Timokoski with the quote of the century. No, but I want to go back to just before the phone cut off there. Actually, my question just came back to me because it funnels into as well the journey, everybody's story, becoming a professional, getting to the top, dealing with setbacks. That's what it's all about, right? That's what life's all about. And we said we live in a picture perfect world now, Instagram reality, right? I've got my studio here. I've got a room that's tipped upside down right there to make it happen, right? It's Instagram and reality. Young players today, Michael, I feel face, even though it's easy times, and they say easy, easy times in terms of technology. These guys have got AI at their fingertips. Anything they want to know, it's readily available, right? But convenience kills, right? When things are hard, it develops character, right?
Mhm.
Now we live in an age of, let's say, entitlement. But I also feel, these kids have a lot of anxiety because they've got so much information at their fingertips. Everybody's telling them, you and I, we can sit here, you need to be doing this, you need to be, and that in itself is kind of is anxiety inducing, right? Just having everybody around you, having it figured out, or this is how you should be, this is how you should look, this is how things should be. And if they're not that way, then we make complaints. We don't take accountability. We fail to find meaning through suffering, right? Which I think is a
Absolutely.
big part of the human condition. So I think the question I was going to ask was, what would you ask 16-year-old Michael? What would you, if Michael Conejero was a 16-year-old today, in today's world, what advice would you give him that is going to help him evolve?
Well, definitely to be patient. Okay, that's something that it's not common every day. Like you said, anxiety, frustration, everything comes from having things just like this, so quick. We have so many tools nowadays that it give us information about everything. So it makes us think that everything is that way. So when you suffer something on the path, on the way, you feel like, okay, that's not the right thing or the right place to go. But you gotta give it opportunities, you gotta give it chances and be patient. Okay, things don't go that quick normally. If something goes quick, normally it goes away quick as well.
Mm.
But it's the way society works nowadays. Everything comes without even thinking about it, and that's something that, for example, in football, it's not the same. You need a process. If you don't sign your professional contract at 16, you can sign it at 24. It doesn't really matter. Not everybody is the same. If my best friend get a contract with 18 years old and now I don't get it, I quit. No,
Mm.
just give yourself some time. Just give yourself the opportunity to have that in the future. You never know what the future is gonna expect for you, but you gotta wait. You gotta be patient. So I think that's something that probably not many people will tell you, to be patient, but it's a cruel reality. Not everything comes your way that quick.
I love it. Be patient, be still, embrace the journey, enjoy the ride. And it comes down to the inner game, right? The way you are on the field is the way you are off it. It's a big reflection. Soccer is a mirror for life. And I think that's a super potent and important message. Words of wisdom, right? From a young man who's achieved his goals and continues to strive for them. Right. So for any young listener listening to this, Michael, I think there's a huge takeaway, and it's easier said than done, right?
Absolutely.
Like I spoke to you before, you know, I'm somebody who I've realized language and my motivation can inspire. But oftentimes I find myself reflecting, you know, the words aren't enough. You have to live by this process. Whereas weren't necessarily the big talker, but you would feel the emotion, you would live it, you would sit in that stillness. And I think that is an incredible message in today's age, right? Let's not just check out and go on our phones. Let's not, like you said, compare ourselves to others, because comparison is the thief of joy, right? I look at others still today in my field, and I should be there. I should be there, right? And my wife says you shouldn't all over yourself, which I think is a good way of putting it, right?
It's just like that.
And so, but the thing is, it's a human condition. So let's normalize it. No, let's humanize it, and let's say, hey,
embrace it.
Be still, because Michael, it's a good message, mate, and I've really appreciated this conversation. I really have. For those who are listening, guys, Michael's story reminds us of something powerful, right? Ambition is not glamorous. It's isolating. It's demanding. It requires identity, strength, and emotional discipline. Yeah, most players say they want to go pro. Few are willing to become the person that's required, as we've spoke about here today. So the real journey is not the external, it's the internal. At PhiloSoccer, we believe soccer is a mirror for life. It reveals who we are under pressure. It reveals what we value. It reveals what we're willing to sacrifice. So, one final question for you, Michael. Who are you becoming through your pursuit?
Well, that's actually a difficult question to answer. I'm building myself up just to be the way I should be. And that might sound quite philosophical, but I don't know who I'm going to be in 5 years, but I'm going to try to be the best that I could get from myself. And I mean, not just in football, but in life. Okay. I think values, it's something so powerful that it's not transmitted by social media. It's transmitted by face-to-face conversation. I don't know, things or normal things that we should normalize, like you said, but it's not like that anymore. But definitely, I don't know who I'm gonna be in 10 years. I will definitely swear and can make sure that I'm gonna be the best that I can get from myself. Not giving up anything, just trying to get the most of absolutely everything. Just as simple as that. I don't know. Try to be better every day, every month, every year.
Of it, mate. Become the best version of yourself on and off the field. That is the real game. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Michael, thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.